I think it does add to it, but you did lose out on the sharpness of your characters.
No, but there's also, the camera moves in this.
It does, yeah. Whereas in Phantom, it was just like stapled down.
Yep. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see what 3 years can do in film.
Yes.
Yeah. And they keep referring to Gwynplaine in his new title as a peer of England. And that is just the titles. So the Duke, Marquess, Earl, Viscount, and Baron, yada yada.
Yeah, they're not considered like actual royalty, but they are a step above, the poverty line.
Yeah. If you are more familiar with the aristocracy, you probably already knew that, but I did not, so I looked it up. Because I don't give a fuck about royalty.
Yeah. And so here we are with Dia kind of being dragged out for the very first time.
Yeah, stumbling through the streets essentially on her own until Homo comes to drag her along.
And yeah, she's like, Homo, where are you taking me? Because Homo is pulling her by the dress and dragging her somewhere that how would she know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and of course, Gwynplaine shows up to the House of Peers, which is where all of the noble people are assembling. One of them is passing out the tickets to the show and saying, how can a clown join the House of Peers? And again, going back to my thought about this being a statement of aristocracy being scum, Ursus now realizes that Dea has wandered off and is horrified because she can't see. She doesn't, he doesn't know that Homo is guiding her or that she's safe at all. Yeah, he's like, I'm about to lose my second child.
I love him.
What a good dog. Oh, hey, dear, get over here. Hey, Gwynplaine. That's how June talks.
Juniper Jones has a great voice, and it's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
So whenever I come over, and I'm always so excited to see her, and I was like, "Hi, my Judy B. Jones. What are you doing?" That's how she talks. I always imagine how Jordan has the deepest voice.
Like Barry White.
Yeah.
Deary Moore shows up and is snacking and rubbing his face against the window of his chariot.
And so now Gwynplaine is a lord.
Yeah.
They have, since he has been recognized as a nobleman, the previously betrothed to Josiana, the weasel looking man.
Deary Moore.
Yeah, he finds Dia, and he was like, "Oh, girl, he ain't dead." Like, drags her into the nobleman's room, to kind of show her that Gwynplaine is still alive. Mm-hmm. Because he wants to be betrothed to the Duchess. He wants his...
This is not a selfless act. He wants the name. He wants the money.
Yes.
He wants the privilege that comes along with it.
He wants his setup back. He was living pretty high beforehand. And once they found out Gwynplaine was the actual heir, they're like, oh, hell no.
They're reading the proclamation.
Emancipation Proclamation.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Junction, what's your function? Right there, Madonna. So hardcore Madonna.
Yeah. So part of the decree that they are reading is that Gwynplaine will also be married to the Duchess. There's a big old hubbub about it. People aren't really sure what to make of it. And then Gwynplaine pulls his scarf down and they see his face and they take the scar on his face as him laughing at them at the Queen's proclamation, and they get upset about it.
Again, which is ridiculous because they know who he is. They know what's wrong with. They know what's wrong with his face. So just the fact that they're having this kind of reaction is obscene.
Dia hears all the men laughing and tries to get into the chambers where they're all laughing so that she can meet up with Gwynplaine.
Because she knows he's in there.
Mm-hmm. But Barky shows up and says, "Oh no, don't go in there."
Because Barky wins if the Duchess ends up marrying Gwynplaine. He gets a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So he needs Dia to leave. And this is one of the creepiest things ever. Because you can start to see, like, Gwen, like, everyone in the noble room after his scarf is removed, they get really pissed off at him. Like, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? He tries to explain that he's not, and then everyone just starts laughing at him. And he actually ends up covering his eyes so they don't see him crying. But the face that he makes is horrifying.
Mm-hmm. In the build-up before that, he drops one tear, essentially.
Yeah.
And Barky throws Dia out of the House of Peers, out into the street.
Mm-hmm.
Probably called her like a wretch. Or
Something
street rat.
Yeah. Street rat.
Poor Dia faints.
Because she just can't believe what's happening.
No.
I mean, she is a very naive girl.
And in the span of a day, she's learned that the person she loves is dead, and then learns that that person's alive.
Then learns that he's a nobleman.
And then gets kicked out.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
It's a lot, especially, like, because she's never really ventured more than the stage from their carriage, their live-in carriage. So, you know, this is all new for her. She doesn't know where she's at and everything. She's a very young, naive girl, and they give her she passed out. They hand her off to Ursus to take her home, and then they leave.
Yeah.
They do what they're supposed to do because they were banished, and they leave.
And then Gwynplaine, he realizes he doesn't want to deal with the bullshit. And he says, I protest.
Yes.
I will not be forced into this hateful marriage, even if the queen wants me to.
Yep.
And let me tell you, it does not go well.
No, and they're like, how dare you refuse the hand of the Duchess, you clown. Like, they just immediately starts tearing into him. Even though he is a nobleman by blood.
And then, you know, they're saying, she's made you a lord. You will do what she says.
Yes.
And he's like, nah.
No, I'm good. I'm going to go to the home that I know and love. But he looks wicked.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is his most horrific looking.
Ooh, I contest that, actually. I would say the most horrific looking is when you first see them do the actual show, where his face is painted white. And so they play with shadow there to completely just make him almost look just like a head. And the way that his head is tilted down and the way the smile is, I would say that that's probably the most wicked looking they've made him. This is just kind of like a crazed wicked.
And I think that's where I'm taking it. I'm taking it more as he's menacing in this. So he is going full on like monster in front of a crowd. Because his movements are very like...
dramatic.
Yes, he's got the hands up and his like clawed hands. Yeah. So he's going in. That's where I was going with.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I would say then he looks more sinister.
Okay.
More terrifying. Yeah. More of a terrifying kind of grandeur in the first show. Mm-hmm. In the first show.
Good old Deary Moore helps Gwynplaine get out.
Yeah, he is thrilled.
Yeah.
Get on out of here.
Duchess Josie turns on him. Mm-hmm. Says, hey, this guy's defying the queen. We need to get him.
Yep.
And Gwynplaine's like, no, I'm out of here.
Yep. And so then, you know, he runs into the...
Good old Barky.
Good old Barky. And Barky is pissed. Mm-hmm. He's like, this is not the plan. You know, he goes up to the men who look like they're about to arrest Gwynplaine. And we failed to mention, you know, we had said at the very top of this that Conrad had worn the prosthetic for the majority of the film, all but one scene. What we failed to mention was what that scene was. So, rewind a little bit to when Gwynplaine goes to the Duchess's chamber, and the Duchess very aggressively throws herself at him. And that is in that moment where she's kind of kissing his face and things. He isn't wearing the prosthesis.
Correct. And
so he escapes. He pretty much scales down the side of the castle.
He pulls a Sally Hardesty and jumps out of a window.
It's great. Yeah. It's really great. It's very grand and over the top. Mm-hmm. It's definitely like a Three Stooges moment almost.
Well, you know, it made sense because he was cornered or trapped on either side of a hallway.
Where are you going to go?
And he's like, fuck it. He's taking a leap of love.
Yes, because he's going for Dia.
That's right.
And so he's running. They're you know, the villagers are thrilled. Mm-hmm. They're like, it's Gwynplaine, our laughing man is back. They adored him, you know? And so the villagers kind of help him. They kind of hold back the, like, they're running after him to see where he's going, but at the same time, they are holding off the, you know, the Queen's men from taking him. And so they're like, he's running, he's trying to find where Dia is. Dia and Ursus. I do very much appreciate how often he does put his hands over his mouth because it's such a...
I think it's a natural thing that someone who had a disfigurement like that would do to,
Thank you.
to
Yes.
cover it.
Thank you.
So the fact that he keeps it up all the time.
Yes, and that's just something his character does. Is, you know, especially in times of stress. If you notice, it's a lot of times in times of stress that he'll go to cover his mouth. And I do appreciate that level of commitment throughout the whole film.
Yeah. He has shown up to where they had been staying before.
Realizes that the man who laughs has been crossed out. Gwynplaine and Dia have been crossed out. And now he goes to some of the villagers and asks, "Where is Dia?"
And they tell him they've been banished. Go to the docks.
Yeah.
You might catch them.
And so here is where the Queen's men show up to take Gwynplaine back and arrest him for defying, you know, the Queen's gift. And the villagers hold him off. They're like, he's our laughing man. Yeah. You know, you can't take him. And so they're trying to help him. They are helping him get back to where Dia is. They lift him up over the gate.
I believe those are some of the other clowns.
Yeah, they are. From the troupe, because they didn't banish the whole troupe. They just banished Dia and Ursus. So yeah, some of the other clowns. The villagers hold off the Queen's men, and the clowns help lift him up over to get to the docks to find Dia, which is great.
I don't think it should be taken for granted how big of a deal it is to defy the Queen in this era.
Not at all. No, that is literally death.
Yeah. Like, it's a ballsy step.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, we live in an era where the president is on Twitter and anyone can accuse him of being a fart bag.
Literally, you can tweet the president back and say, "Fuck you.
Yeah.
I hope you die."
Yeah.
And nothing will happen to you.
If you
will get
thought
likes.
those words in the 1600s, you were probably going to be put to death.
Immediately.
If you didn't die at the age of 14 from the Black Plague.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Good old 14-year-old grandpa. It's really kind of a thrilling chase sequence for its time as Gwynplaine is jumping from building to building.
It's amazing. The like what's happening is really wonderful. It's a, you know what it reminds me of? It's very Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just this, and I had mentioned this to you yesterday, where this crowd kind of speed this up a little bit, and so the crowd kind of moves in this almost like rebel kind of way. And the way he like jumps from roof to roof, you know, it is very kind of over the top, very Charlie Chaplin-esque. And that is a wicked face.
So he leapt from one building, didn't quite make it, and is holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
And below him is both
an angry mob and a bunch of villagers who want to help him.
Yeah. Including some cops with some very long, pointy sticks.
Yes. Very long, pointy sticks. There are some torches in there.
Yeah. So if you were to fall, not a fun time.
No.
But fortunately, he is pulled up
by people who want to help him. And then the next scene is you see Ursus and Dia and Homo getting board. They're boarding a boat.
I wish I had more information on where this was shot, because it's such a cool. I know this is a ridiculous statement, but it looks real. You know what I mean?
It looks like they went to a small village.
Yeah.
And did this, versus like a soundstage.
Yeah, which I mean, in 2022, it's not a big deal to say that because they create entire worlds on a computer.
Yeah.
But it feels like an actual place. You could also add the Benny Hill theme song to this chase scene.
Yep. It would work perfectly.
Throw in some random reaction shots from Ursus.
Yeah. Looking
all wild-eyed.
Yeah. Crazy hair. Yeah. Very, very Doc. I do like that cue card because it does exaggerate the Dia. It's you really do kind of hear it.
Yeah. So, as Gwynplaine is escaping, he ends up near the docks. The boat is already taken off.
Yeah.
Which apparently in the 16th century was the end of the story, because the Camperchicos left the baby behind when the boat took off. So apparently everyone was convinced it was the end.
Yeah.
But he's standing on the docks and he's yelling Dia's name, and as his reaction grows louder, the title card actually goes into full caps.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's on purpose, but it like waves.
Yes, yeah, and that's what and so then they hear Ursus, Dia, and Homo hear Dia's name being called. Homo just jumps off the boat. And he heads over. Gwynplaine finds a life draft, and this is the greatest scene in the entire movie right here.